Checkout Tracking by the NPD Group brings you a receipt collecting system that gathers data anonymously through technology we created, providing your businesses with answers.
So, who's out of the audience is looking at VR, developing for VR? Everybody, great. And anyone who's looking at the high-end PC-based VR, and who's looking at the mobile side of the business? And I assume most are developers. Who's not a developer? Okay, cool. So this you know, kind of talk presentation would cover, for the people who are not kind of sure about the mapping of what is VR and what's mobile VR out of that, you know, what is the opportunity just in terms of business and timing, the creative opportunity as well. And I'm not the creative guy, but at least I'll be able to kind of give you a business side look into that. And what are the tools and what are the resources, you know, company like Sidekick and others are using into understanding how the market is evolving, where it is going or may go. Just a few words about Sidekick and myself. I'm running a video game developer and publisher called Sidekick Games. We have office in Tel Aviv in Israel, and we have an office here in Southern California. We've been doing games and working with high-tech companies, blue-chip companies like Intel and Google, startups like Leapmotion and Oculus, creating for them games that are presenting their unique features, new platforms into the market. We've been doing that quite some time, and then obviously kind of extended that into working with major media companies like Disney and Rovio and Square Enix, bringing games with them to the market over various platforms with a big focus on mobile. About a year and a half ago or so, Oculus contacted us, and we sat down together and we saw the prototype of what became the Gear VR. We basically took the same process that we usually work. We took an existing games, and then we adapted that into Gear VR. It became launch title. It's called Romans for Mars. You can play that on the Gear VR today, and very soon, in a few months, you'll be able to play that on many other VR, mobile VR platforms as well. And this has become a big focus, big business focus for us. We're working today with a lot of developers and a lot of publishers who are looking to bring their IP, their game into VR, but want to work with a third party who knows how to adapt the game and then publish and distribute the game on these new platforms. So when we look at VR, we see a lot of different opportunities. The market is actually quite diverse already, with different options into the market. You know, we see the PC-based connected headset. All the what we know mostly is the Vive, right? The HTC and Vive and the Oculus product that will be coming to market, hopefully in the next few months. High-end headsets. High-end technology that really immerses you in the market. Similarly, but maybe more kind of easy-to-use process, you see the console-level headset, mainly the Morpheus, what's happening with connecting the headset into game console, the PlayStation. Wonderful experience. Again, very, very high-end. And then we see all those headsets that really use the smartphone as the way to run their VR. Basically with no or almost no technology at all, at a comfortable price of $0 up to, let's say, $200, you can have a VR headset, which is not high-end like the PC or console-based headset, but still gives you a very good experience for media viewing and very accessible gameplay. My talk is going to focus on the smartphones, as most of you are developing games for phones using, comfortable engines like Unity. We are looking at that opportunity, and at Sidekick, we are looking at that market exclusively today as one of our growth engines. To map it maybe in a kind of a more broader, and this is from Digit Capital, one of the business analysts that's looking overall on games. There's the HTC Vive, Oculus, and others in the very immersive upper left corner. There's the entire augmented reality, totally different discussion. I'll talk about that in 2-3 years from now. What we are focusing on is that corner here where Samsung, Zeiss, upcoming startups like Merge are playing, and then Google. Google here, it's a bit kind of, it's just a small icon, but what Google is really doing very well is working with partners and bringing a lot of different flavors of that core design into the market with big name partners like Mattel. You can see on the bottom right area the new ViewMaster, and a lot of other partners that are taking the same design and then using very cost-effective materials, whether it's cardboard or plastic or other type of materials, and bringing these headsets into the market. And this is where we feel we'll see very rapid growth as an accessory that comes with your phone, with your smartphone, and provide a very wide market and ability to have fun with a VR experience. And I think that's basically, if I want to sum up that promise in just a title, I would say that the promise here is accessibility. Having a wide market, being able to use a device that they already own, a smartphone, and very quickly jump into a stereoscopic and a full VR experience, whether it's looking at pictures, looking at YouTube videos and stuff like that. Doesn't need to be 360. Okay, just that big screen experience that's coming out of your very small screen device. That's very, very appealing proposition. And what's nice about it is that it's a very different type of screen, right? It's not just another huge screen. It's not like I'm buying now an 80-inch screen or getting a new 1-inch screen. It is that 360 new experience, but it had very comfortable past success signals that people actually want that experience. And 1800s, you had the stereoscopic. On the right, you see some of the older folks may recognize Brian May, who may be the best guitar player alive. And he's one of the biggest collectors of stereoscopic viewers, next to being a PhD in astrophysics and a very good guitar player. These viewers were extremely popular, right? 100 and 200 years ago, and they were the visual entertainment of the day. Later on, new stuff came about. Like the ViewMaster, right? 10, 20 years ago, big success out of a very accessible, price-effective viewer that everybody had in their house, right? And this is now version kind of 2 or 3.0 of this same success, same viewing experience that people want, right? Only now it doesn't come from a printed card or that reel, it comes from your smartphone with all the extra benefit that comes out of that smartphone being able to know how you move, being connected to the internet and all that, and with an existing ecosystem with the stores, with the developers, with the economy that comes with that. Taking that promise and connecting that with numbers, so we have a number of analysts looking at the market. Some people talk about $20 billion market that's now building up. Some people say it might be twice as big as that over the next few years. It's important to understand that we're not talking about something that will happen next year. Okay, it would take 2-3 years at least. We are looking at a situation where there's an entire ecosystem already built and ready to develop that. It's not going to be as big as mobile phone because nothing is. The last thing that was as big as mobile phone was the Industrial Revolution, basically, in terms of growth and numbers. But it is a subset, and it does ride on the success and continued growth of the smartphone revolution that we are part of, practically. Okay? Games, especially on the phone and the mobile VR market, are going to be an important category in that market. And how that will play, if that's a 20 billion or 40 billion or 5 billion market, we will see that rather soon, within a few years. So now, if you look at games, and we know that professionally building games takes 9 to 18 months to bring to market, now is a great time to start in starting having your games, your IP ready for that growth as it happens now. And anybody that's been into the market more than 5-7 years know that nobody knows how the real numbers are. But new platforms are an incredible opportunity for anyone in this room and outside of this room looking at VR to build market leadership, build a strong position, build the knowledge and know-how on how to develop for a new platform. And don't take it from me, take it from John Riccotell, CEO of Unity today. He was the CEO of EA, legendary person who's looking at VR, also driving Unity as part of the platform and the engine growth into new venues like VR, saying this is a new platform. And when there's a new platform, classic John Riccotell quote, staggering orgasm of the new. It is an opportunity for everybody in this room to create the tools, the technologies, and the content that will be a major content and will shine on a new platform. Basically, we are all looking to do or to be part of the game that would define the platform. Very much like Angry Birds back in the day or Cut the Rope back in the day, who were defining smartphone gaming or early smartphone games with the use of the screen as the controller, the accessibility, the ease of jumping in and jumping out. We all look to do or be part of the game that would define what mobile VR is. I talked about the ecosystem, and this is not a totally new thing, right? When smartphones were introduced, there wasn't all that ecosystem. There was no infrastructure. There was no clear distribution channels. Back then, operators really ruled the world of what goes on the phone and what not. Today, a lot of that is ready, but it's also important to map up who you want to speak to, where you want to position yourself, and how you want to work with the market as you're growing your business into mobile VR. On the left side, you have the headset and accessory makers. Obviously today, Samsung is very much out there with their investment in VR, but a lot of others, including toy makers, accessory makers, and newcomers, are being part of the hardware layer of the business. You want to work with them. We work with them a lot because part of their play is online, but part of their play is also retail. And that's a marketing channel that not a lot of people are used to these days. The phones, I can tell you that all the phone makers, all the big names, are investing in VR today. It's happening internally. It's important to know, OnePlus and Samsung are talking about that, but all the other people are doing stuff, obviously, and looking at the growth and the way of VR to be a motivation for them selling higher-end phones with better screens, better sensors, better CPUs and GPUs, right? They're there to sell more phones, and VR is an amazing driver for them. The tool makers, we talked about Unity. There are a lot of other tool makers that are coming in. Look at the open source VR initiative that's happening, and a lot of companies are jumping in to be part of that. And obviously the publishers. I know that a lot of you are saying, hey, I want to make this VR game. A lot can just take whatever resources they have and start getting games out, but you're also looking for funding or big partners to work with, which is always the thing. And here you see media companies coming from the movie side, coming from game publishing. Doesn't happen a lot yet, but we start to see that coming in and say, hey, we want to fund your next project. We want a leg into mobile VR. We are interested to do that. We see these deals starting to happen now. We are doing some of these deals, and this is definitely an exciting platform for traditional media companies, and think more pictures and movies, and not only games. And then you will always have that services, it's a new platform. So, and we know that services, as we're always seeing at Casual Connect, are a big segment there. Infrastructure, analytics, ads, etc. People are already looking at this new platform and how they can grow their mobile business into mobile VR as an extension of their business now. And the funding, where VCs are still, a lot of them are on the fence when it comes to content, but if you see some VCs investing and getting a return on hardware plays and infrastructure plays, you see now a lot of incubators looking at it. River is one, and they're, I think, just about to start their second round. And strategic and corporate investment. I don't know if you read, HTC just invested $10 million in a content creator for VR, and more money is coming as everybody is looking for content to join as they are rolling out their headsets. Obviously, it's a Wild West, and the Wild West comes with a lot of challenges, so I felt it was my duty to say, watch out, right? Would VR grow at the speed we want it to grow? How can we overcome issues like, putting the headset on people's head? People don't get VR until they've done that. That's a huge barrier to market. Obviously, retail is going to be playing a big part of that, but it is something that's not clear, right? It's not a shareable experience. What you see today, right, other people don't see unless you stream it to a TV, which is kind of a clanky technical way to do that. It can be done. It's very tough. It's also not a very social experience. When you put your headset out or somebody does, other people are disconnected. All those are huge challenges. Also, an area where you can come in, contribute with a solution of your own. Friction of usage, getting that phone out of your pocket and playing it is very easy. Putting it in a headset and out, right, more friction. It's not as easy as smartphones. The introduction of content and games specifically has been very slow over the last year. Understanding why it's not out there yet. We want to see that velocity there. The controls, right? A lot of games need more than just tapping control, just one button controls. You don't have one control that is the standard control. What do you do there? Big issue. Every headset is coming with a controller, with the different controllers, or not at all. How do you bring games that really face all that, different hardware out there? VR sickness, everybody's talking about it. Definitely mobile VR is not as good as the PC VR in terms of allowing people to feel comfortable. How do you overcome that? And social acceptance in terms of people wearing the headset, looking a bit goofy. All that are issues that I think everybody in the market, from the hardware side and retail to the content level, are looking at and try to bypass, right? Because we want this to succeed. The biggest point, I think, for us, and I think everybody in the market, is timing. How do we play our resources, our cards right, as the market is happening? If you believe, and I believe everybody in this room believes that VR is the next platform, and it is going to happen within the next 2 to 4 years, right? How do we build ourselves today, overcoming the challenges, the huge changes in that wild, wild, dry West that we will be in? And how do we play that right so when it does grow up and it does get to the 20 to 30 million headsets out, so, you know, at that point we can ride that success and that investment that we're doing. I think everybody has their own strategy, but we need to know we're here for the long run, and it is going to be a long drive in. The new horizons that I believe is a big motivation for everybody is, you know, figuring out the right game. That game that kind of we're all looking to do. The first person, you know, being their sensation, that's a big driver that everybody wants to use. How you use the VR space, even in mobile VR, to trigger more emotions with characters, with visual feedbacks, with what you can use, and you can use a lot of that even today with VR, to create even bigger, you know, idea of escapism, using either the big screen sensation or the spherical surrounding sensation that comes out of VR. The new perspective to scenes, a lot of the more innovative games that we've seen over the last few months are coming with totally different perspective of being very small in a regular environment, like an ant in a, you know, big bricks, Lego-like environment, or being very big and looking at a small world. This new perspective where less interesting in other platforms, in VR they actually work great. And then accompanying and riding smartphone growth in different territories. And a lot of what we see here, again, are territories where smartphones are the only screen that people have, and with VR, they actually get into a situation where they can get a big screen experience, whether it's flat or surrounding. And when we look at this, understanding that this is not smartphone, but this is also not a console, it is very mobile. You know, it goes with you, but it comes with the friction. It's not as easy as getting your phone out of your pocket and back in. We're looking at it maybe more as a handheld console opportunity. And what I'm going to leave you are some thoughts about if it is that, if there are parallels not only to smartphone growth and usage, but also to game consoles, like the Nintendo 3DS as an example. What would be the leading categories, do you believe, in that platform 2, 3, 4 years from now? What will people play? What will bring forward the uniqueness of being able to be surrounded in that environment and not just looking at the game from a screen? Who would be the audience that would dedicate their time to be, who would be the hardcore audience on that platform? I'll leave you with these 3 questions because I don't have the answers. I think we're all going to work very hard, and as we work, we're going to find these exact 3 answers for this market. Hopefully, you know, we're going to see the growth that we believe the growth would be very fast. The last year was crazy in terms of the momentum and velocity we've seen, both in terms of number of headsets, big companies coming in, and content. We want to see that growth going, and we want to see how we can work with you and all together to make sure there's crazy fun experiences, content, and games coming in all the new headsets. Thank you very much.
Guy Bendov, Sidekick Games. Thank you.
I'm going to leave you, and this will be online. There are a number of analysts that are looking at this market. If anybody doesn't know them yet, I'll leave you with these links. Thank you.
So we only have time for one question. Anyone?
Guy, that was a fantastic presentation.
Thank
you. Curious to get your thoughts, because as I was watching this, I was really thinking, we've seen this movie before in terms of the competing platforms right now. Looking back, we had some of the previous examples. We had Betamax versus VHS. We had Blu-ray versus HD DVD. With apologies to anyone in Microsoft, we've now come down to really only 2 platforms for mobile. How many platforms do you think we will end up with in VR, and what can we learn from those previous experiences, as we're so early in VR, to try to bet on the right ones right now?
Right. So specifically looking at mobile VR, not the high-end VR, totally different discussion, totally different audience, and totally different content. One of the comfort is that we are basing this market on an existing ecosystem. Right? We see a lot of growth on the Android platform and a lot of growth on the iOS platform, right? And that's not about to change anytime soon. So these are the 2 big platforms that are out there. Obviously, Google is way more advanced in bringing solution and different type of profile into this market. I think that that market will grow.
What about the high-end?
Again, totally different discussion. The high-end VR, for us, represent, at least in our mind, at Sidekick, an opportunity for the AAA titles. And other than, touch and go investment that we see, most of what we see there are extensions of the $10, $20, $40 million investment for the AAA titles that will extend into that high-end VR. The audience that is buying the $400 headset that connects to a platform that costs anywhere between $600 to $2,400 really is looking for the very, very high-end experiences they get. It doesn't cost $1 million. It doesn't cost $2 million to do. It costs a lot of money to do. Mostly, you would want to see a return on your investment there. So what we see in the next, quite good years, like 5+, are mostly extensions of AAA investment that are being done in that market into a VR experience. Obviously, there are exceptions, 505 and Breeze, there are mostly it's just extensions of current investment that are done anyway.
Thank you. One more time, give it up for Guy Bendov,
Thank you very
Sidekick
much.
Games.